So let me begin with one of the biggest challenges I think we are facing with today's medicine, and that is lifestyle diseases. So lifestyle diseases is definitely something that we should be very alert about because that is an area that is exploding. And it's not just going like this, it's exponentially growing. I fully acknowledge oncology is a very important area. I fully acknowledge that orphan diseases are very important, but lifestyle diseases is the future problem for human beings. With that being said, when we decide on a treatment plan for a patient, we often decide on that they should have something that should be prescribed to the patient. The problem is that only in 50% of the cases, the patient actually follows the advice from the doctor. 50% of the cases. So from the minute the patient walks out of the GP's office or specialist's office, they actually don't follow the advice in half of the cases. Is that a problem? I think so. So that is exactly what I will try to focus about. So in Leo Pharma, what we did was actually to realize that there's a need for patients to understand why they have a disease. They need to understand why they should take their medication. Otherwise, we will lose our business and the patient will not be helped. So let's try to reframe that. Let's try to involve the patients in how they're treating themselves, in how they look at their disease. Let's try to make it personalized. For the first time in human history, we are making something that is personalized based on how they think and how their behavior actually is, and not based on a specific target. I fully acknowledge that that is important as well, because we need new treatments, but we even more need that people adhere to the treatment that we actually give them. So when we talk about treatments in Leo Pharma, we thought, okay, we are operating in a very regulated area, and that regulated area, as we just heard, is very difficult to operate in. So we needed to do something different. So we decided to make a spin-off company called Leo Innovation Lab, and that is where I'm working. And I was also offered a position in there, and to begin with, I said, no thanks. And then I had to reflect a lot, and then I said, okay, let me try to see if we can build something different. So we started in August last year. Today we are more than 40 employees, represented in 5 countries, primarily in the Western world, and trying to look at new solutions for patients. Because what is important is that we need to understand how the patient they think. And we need to understand the way they think can be something that is being implemented into an active, real behavioral change. Nothing is happening? Yeah, okay. One of the things that we have in our pocket, and everyone has, I think, in here, is actually our mobile phones. Our mobile phones is a supercomputer. And let me try to go back a little bit in time and look at the old pictures from Apple. What do we have there in the old times? We had what we called a personalized computer. This can be your personalized treatment plan. And that is what I'm going to try to convince you about that it actually is. So let's take a case where we think we're sitting back home and we imagine that we have something on our skin. Okay? So now you're back at home, and you wake up in the morning, and you see a black spot on your body. What do? Normally what you do is that you'll go to Dr. Google and type in a lot of stuff about black spots, and then you'll find out the name of it is moles, and potentially it can lead to disease-mongering, malignant melanoma, and you can die from it. You are totally scared. You go to a GP, and you have to take a day off, so you lose productivity on the market. And then you go up and you face the situation that the doctor actually doesn't know what it actually is. So they say, okay, I will refer you to a dermatologist, and there's a waiting time in Denmark of 4 weeks when there's something that is of certain concerns. So that's quite speedy in Denmark. In other countries, it's down to a week. In other countries, it's even up to half a year. Then you go to the dermatologist, and then you're faced with this. The dermatologist looks at the lesion and then decides on what to do with that lesion. But do you trust the evaluation? That's the problem here. Do you trust what you actually are being told, what it is that you have on your body? In many cases, the patients do not trust. So they demand, despite that it's benign or malignant, that this should be removed from the patient. What if we used a mobile health app instead that could help you? What if we could take our phone, if we wake up in the morning, so now you're back home again, you snap a picture of what you see, and then simply you upload a picture, and a picture is worth 1,000 words? No, it's actually worth 1,000,000 words. There's so much information in that picture because this is a camera with a super personalized computer in it. But what we want as a consumer is a simple answer. We want a yes or no. So only 2 words. So if we can actually take all that information and put it down to something that is very simple, that will help not even just the patient, but also the whole healthcare system. So can this be done today? And can we trust in the data that we get? Yes, we can. There's actually one company called Skin Vision. Skin Vision is offering a free app where patients can take a picture with their phone, they can upload it to their system, and then they can also get the picture analyzed. With a very sophisticated mathematical algorithm, this can actually predict if whatever you see on your skin is of low, medium, or high risk. Interestingly. But what is very important is that when you then go to your GP, they don't trust in that evaluation, and they say, okay, I will refer you to a dermatologist, and you wait 4 weeks. What you can do is actually you can track your lesion over time, and then, like this. Oops. Then you can track it over time, and then you can actually see what happens with that lesion over the next 4 weeks. So that is very important, because evolution of a lesion is very important for if it's actually benign or malignant. So now you can all download this app and try this, and then you may say, okay, is this trustworthy? Will the doctors actually believe in the data? What is important here is that this app is more correct based on confirmed histological biopsies of that lesion before it actually was biopsied, that it's actually better than the GP's evaluation, and it's on par with the dermatologist. So the specificity and sensitivity of this platform is around 80%, and the dermatologist is around 60 to 90% correct. So now we have something that is changing the way we look at healthcare. So this is just one example of medical apps in the future. This will grow with exponential speed. The technology that we will face will actually be able to discover very early diseases. It will also be able to prevent or even treat diseases. But before we actually learn and look at a specific journey, we need to understand why people make the choice that they do. Should I accept the chocolates and the wine that I'll be given in 10 minutes' time? I don't know. I think I will. But I should actually take the apple, because from my point of view, that's the most healthiest thing. But in my mind, I would go for the other one in the evening tonight. And that's the whole thing that we don't understand. We don't understand why is it that the patients don't pick up the apple when they are ill, but pick up the cake. They have type 2 diabetes. They all know they can't tolerate it, but they are. So let's try to look at what patients actually do. So here you see a graph where you have low risk, high risk, or chronic diagnosis of a cardiovascular disease. And interestingly, what you see is that in patients that are at high risk, you see that the majority of them think that they are in excellent health shape. That's interesting. And even more interesting is that when you look at the chronic patients, so those are the ones that actually are prescribed medications, that are monitored every month, that 1/4 of them actually say that they are in excellent health shape. So there's something we don't understand here. And even more, if we dig into those chronic patients, we would see, based on their BMI, oops, it's interesting. Based on their BMI, one back here, you can actually see that if they have a body mass index above 30, they are considered as being obese. Even in that case, we see that 29% of them think that they are in excellent shape. That's striking, right? So there's something we don't understand here. And it doesn't stop here, because if we look into dermatology, which is the area that we focus a lot on, we see that we, on the horizontal axis, have what is called mild to the left, and then we have moderate in the middle, and severe to the right side. And that's assessed by a doctor. So the doctor looks at the patient and says, this patient has mild disease. But if we ask the patients, do they actually see themselves as having mild disease? In this case, to the left, we see that 22% of them think that they have severe disease, despite that they only are clinically diagnosed as having mild disease. That's interesting. But also on the other side, if you have severe disease, so in this case you have more than 10 palms covered all over your body with the disease psoriasis, a chronic inflammatory skin disease, we see that more than 30% of them are seeing themselves as being mild or moderate in disease. So what is it that we can do with all these data? We can try to meet a patient, Rob. Meet Rob. Rob is a psoriasis patient. So he has a skin disease. He had it for 15 years. And his problem is that he doesn't think or believe in that treatments help him. So what we did was actually to offer Rob what we call passive data collection. So we simply just asked him to activate an app, collect a lot of data, and then also to snap a picture of his disease. So we did that over time. And here's all the points that we got out of that. What does that actually reflect? So down on the horizontal axis, we see physical activity. In this case, it's simply counting steps and GPS location. If you have no activity, fully inactive, you are 0. If you have a lot of activity, you are graded 10. And then, with respect to social media activity, so what we're doing here is we are monitoring how often are you on the social media, and we're also doing what is called social media listening. We are monitoring how active you are on the media, so how much you post and what you write. So if you're very inactive, you're giving 0, and if you're very active, you're giving the grade of 10. If we look at this and map it to the clinical pictures of Rob's disease, what we see is that there's an area up here where it's actually cleared. There's an area down here where it actually has a flare-up. It sounds very logical, but what is interesting with this is that the brilliant solutions are often very logical. What if we could stop that progression? What if we could advise the patient in doing a behavioral change that would stop the disease progression? And this is just one example out of many. And there's so much more we can build into this. There's so many factors we can measure. Passive data collection collects a lot, but we also have active data. You can simply today take your phone, activate an app, illuminate your finger via the camera on the backside, and then it can measure your pulse. Then you can enter a stress program, and then you can actually also stop the progression, because a lot of inflammatory diseases are caused by psychological issues. Stress is one of the things that causes them to develop. So if we can give a patient, I'm not saying everyone, but some patients, a mindfulness course, and maybe stop the disease progression, that's a solution that will matter to the patient, and also matter to the whole healthcare system and the cost of it today. So with that, I just want to say that there's a lot of things that we want to understand, and I think that the future lies just in front of us. We just need to capture it. We need to help the patients in a different way. You need to think in a different way. You need to think, reframe the initial problems and say, is the initial problem a receptor that is, and the solution is a drug? Or is the initial problem that there's something wrong with the way the patient lives with the disease? And that is something that we can tackle on a more easy way. Maybe that's the case. Then we should go for that. But use a lot of time on thinking about the initial problem. Don't think everything is molecular biology. Think about there's something else, and that is also what we as scientists need to focus on in order to help the patients. So good luck on your future journey. It was interesting to be here today, and I hope that you did learn something new. And definitely, I think that mobile health is here to stay in the future. Thank you.